Together to the book of Acts. This morning we'll begin in Acts chapter 2. We'll look at verses 1 through 13 as we come back to our series on this book. I'm thankful for my good friend, Reverend Brian Bolt, to fill the pulpit last Sunday and to preach on the parable of the prodigal son. It's always good to be reminded of the gospel truths, and that parable is familiar to so many of us. But as we come back to our study on the book of Acts, let's kind of catch up a moment on where we've been, just really through chapter 1, looking at the nuts and bolts of this book, that it was written by Luke, who was not an original apostle, who came along later. We believe he is a physician by trade, and so we will refer to him at times as Dr. Luke. He was inspired and guided by the Holy Spirit to write this book, and to specifically write on the history of the birth and early days of the church. And it's interesting to note that in writing this, what's the first major event he records for us? Well, it's the ascension of Jesus Christ. This reminder that part of the meaning of the ascension is for Jesus to be ascended to the right hand of the Father, where in that place he now fulfills the role of the head of the church. That the ascension had to take place for the birth to take place. So we think of the ascension and that Jesus now is at the right hand of the Father to be the king and head of the church. And then from that, we talked about aspects of revival that we are to see in the church. Not just a one-time revival, but an ongoing revival. And then our last time in it, we looked at Judas. And that Judas was an evil man. And that Judas betrayed Jesus for a handful of silver. But that Satan was using Judas to try and stop the church, to try and stop the ministry of Jesus that would lead to the church. But Jesus